Sayaka was introverted and sensitive as a child. Her biggest dream was to make a friend. For her daughter's mental health, her mother transferred her to Maran Girls Middle School, where even without studying, she could directly advance to the school's high school and university, which suited her mother's wishes. As long as Sayaka was happy, that was enough. However, the pursuit of happiness led her to be placed in the worst class in high school, referred to by teachers as the garbage class. Her father placed his dream of becoming a professional baseball player on her younger brother, Ryota, ignoring his two daughters. Fortunately, their mother loved them dearly. If life continued like this, Sayaka might remain idle until she graduated from university. But a change occurred in the first semester of her second year of high school, when a teacher discovered cigarettes in her bag. The teacher threatened her with expulsion unless she named her smoking companions, but she refused to speak. Her mother believed that while smoking was wrong, asking Sayaka to betray her friends for leniency was also not an appropriate educational approach. The school leaders were left speechless, and ultimately, the school imposed an indefinite suspension on Sayaka, which could affect her university admission. Therefore, her mother found her a tutoring school. Even if she couldn't directly enter university, she could apply to other schools. Looking at Sayaka, who was dressed like a Gyaru, Yoshitaka did not see her as a bad student like other teachers. Instead, he showed her respect and understanding. He had Sayaka take an academic assessment, and after 5 years of not studying, her level was only that of an elementary school student. However, Yoshitaka did not lose heart. He praised her unique ideas and positive attitude. Sayaka, who had never been praised by a teacher before, found this experience refreshing. Encouraged by Yoshitaka, she chose Keio University, one of Japan's top 3 private universities, as her goal because it had many handsome boys. However, after a period of effort, Sayaka only answered one question correctly on the test. Yoshitaka found her foundational knowledge to be absurdly poor. She didn't even know that south was below north. Nevertheless, Sayaka did not easily give up. Her father had no hopes for her. He poured all his energy into his son, even spending a lot of money on equipment for him. All expenses for the two sisters were borne solely by their mother. This biased behavior made Sayaka very unhappy, and she even intentionally ruined her brother's gloves as revenge. However, this also made her want to prove herself to her father even more. One day, a boy joined the tutoring class. Though she hadn't seen him yet, she heard his voice first. He was forced into the class by his mother. The boy's name was Reiji, and his family had been lawyers for 3 generations, so they wanted him to become a lawyer too. Perhaps due to his father's strictness, he developed a rebellious attitude and refused to study properly. In desperation, he was sent here. However, teacher Yoshitaka has seen many children like this. After learning that his current behavior is a form of revenge against his father, he immediately brought up a topic that the other party was interested in, teaching him a better method of revenge. To Reiji's surprise, he actually adopted it and started reading. Sayaka was astonished by this scene and said, "The teacher must have magic, right?" Yoshitaka smiled and said, "Knowledge is magic. The more you know, the more methods you have." He then announced the successful completion of her elementary school courses and encouraged her to start studying the subjects required for the entrance exam to Keio University, including English essays and Japanese history. As long as she got into Keio University, she would become capable of anything. Yoshitaka initially thought Sayaka would work hard during the summer vacation, but unexpectedly, the girl had already made plans with her friends, filling her schedule to the brim. To motivate Sayaka to finish her English studies, teacher Yoshitaka promised to show her embarrassing photos from his student days. Thus, in order to see his black history, along with her father boasting about her younger brother winning a baseball championship, Sayaka utilized almost all her time to study, not even sparing time for entertainment with her friends. After the summer vacation, Sayaka easily passed the test. Teacher Yoshitaka kept his promise and brought out his student photos, causing everyone to burst into laughter. It was a photo from his university days when he went to New Zealand as an exchange student, which led to discussions about his high school days. It turned out that Yoshitaka was also a problematic student back then, but later, through his own efforts, he was admitted to university. As for becoming a tutor, it was a very coincidental opportunity. He originally just wanted to do part-time work, but found many students like himself who were falling behind and had been abandoned by the school, becoming poor performers. However, he firmly believed that every student has potential, so he hoped to use his efforts to help them realize it. As the second semester of the second year of high school began, Sayaka's suspension ended. During class, the homeroom teacher inadvertently learned about her goal and didn't believe she could get into Keio University. As a result, the teacher's ridicule not only failed to make Sayaka back down, but instead ignited her competitive spirit. The two even made a bet that whoever lost would have to strip naked and do a handstand on the playground. Her father also didn't believe in her, thinking her dream was foolish to the point of being laughable, which led to a big argument with her mother. One day, Sayaka was sitting by the roadside in a daze when she suddenly saw a happy father-daughter pair not far away. She remembered how her father used to carry her like that when she was little. At that moment, Reiji interrupted her thoughts, and they started talking. Sayaka then learned why Reiji had begun to study diligently. It turned out that Yoshitaka had taught him a more cruel method of revenge against his father, to work hard to get into university and then pass the bar exam, but not become a lawyer. However, he now understood that this was Yoshitaka's way of encouraging him to study. Moreover, this is also Yoshitaka's strength. In order to connect with the student's mindset, he constantly supplements discussions on topics like gaming, anime, and idols, showing his genuine effort. When returning to the tutoring class, Sayaka suddenly discovers that her homeroom teacher is actually walking with Yoshitaka. It turns out that teacher Takashi heard about the students taking extra classes outside school. He bluntly stated that their school is a direct pathway to university and does not want students applying to other universities. Furthermore, for students like Sayaka, who ranks in the bottom 2% of all candidates nationwide, dreaming of attending Keio University is simply unrealistic. Yoshitaka strongly argues that Sayaka is not a poor student. She is very capable and has infinite potential. If teachers keep saying this, it will make students truly believe they are poor students. Yoshitaka has had similar experiences, so he will not give up on any student. However, teacher Takashi dismisses this, believing that while Yoshitaka's words are impressive, ultimately he is still doing it for money. The two have a disagreement, and Takashi gets up to leave. Sayaka's eyes well up with tears, realizing that even the teacher is working hard for her future, so how can she slack off? After that, she indeed puts away her playful attitude and starts preparing for exams seriously. Her grades improve rapidly, but even so, it is still far from enough to get into Keio University. Sayaka started too late. Therefore, her mother takes out the sister's insurance and fixed deposits and borrows some money from relatives to gather enough tutoring fees, switching her tutoring to 6 days a week. Her mother also finds a night job. She tells Yoshitaka that whether or not Sayaka gets admitted is not important. The key is that Sayaka is happy in the tutoring class. Looking at that pile of money, Sayaka feels a mix of emotions and can only double her efforts to repay her mother's support. She still plays with her friends as usual, but her mind is focused on her studies. Seeing this, her friends had a serious talk with her, expressing their hope that Sayaka can get into Keio University, so they encourage her to focus on her studies and gather after the exams. Faced with her friends' understanding, Sayaka is moved to tears. She can only strive harder and harder. After a period of studying, Sayaka makes significant progress, doing well in English and Japanese history, but her essays remain weak. Yoshitaka tells her that she cannot just write her own opinions. That is an essay, not a research paper. A research paper must consider issues from various perspectives to reach the essence of the events and achieve high scores. After relentless effort, Sayaka's essays finally show some improvement. At this point, Yoshitaka starts to let her tackle past exam questions from Keio University, which are at a completely different level of difficulty compared to her previous practice. Sayaka feels like giving up. Yoshitaka told her with a standing egg that many things that seem impossible can often be achieved. After a round of encouragement, Sayaka threw herself into her studies with renewed confidence. To cut off distractions and focus on her studies, she cut off her long hair. Seeing this, Reiji followed suit and dyed his golden hair black. Sayaka put in hundreds of times the effort, often studying all night until dawn, which led her to sleep most of the time in class, causing dissatisfaction from teacher Takashi. Time quickly passed to the first mock exam at school, and the results were not ideal, with almost every subject receiving an E. She felt a bit hopeless. Yoshitaka comforted her, saying her English score was quite good, just a little lacking in history. When she returned home, her father and younger brother were arguing. Ryota, who entered the new school, found that he was too far behind others and wanted to give up baseball. Sayaka intended to encourage Ryota to persevere, but was instead mocked by her brother. Dream, do you really think you can get into Keio University? Next, Sayaka went through a series of mock exams, receiving a string of E's. Pain and despair began to wrap around her, as it seemed no matter how hard she tried, university was always out of reach. Sayaka felt a bit self-destructive, thinking it was okay not to go to Keio University. Yoshitaka told her that lowering her goals would only lead to lower aspirations, and eventually, she wouldn't be able to go to any university. However, Sayaka was in a bad mood and decided to give up. After leaving the tutoring class, she went to where her mother worked night shifts. Watching her mother work tirelessly like a mule, she couldn't help but burst into tears, saying, "I'm sorry, I'm so tired." Her mother held her tightly and later told her that it was okay to give up if she was too tired. She had already worked very hard. In comparison, her mother was the one who was truly exhausted, yet she was always so gentle. Her mother stroked her head and said, "As long as I can see your smiling face, that's my greatest happiness." Sayaka cried, not understanding how her mother could marry her father. Her mother worked so hard, while her father seemed indifferent to them. But things were not as Sayaka saw them. Her mother told her that her father was actually very kind and always couldn't help but help those in need. He had also sacrificed a lot for the family, and he had high hopes for Ryota because of his regrets about not making it into the Keio University baseball team back then. Sayaka stopped going to the tutoring class and spent her days dazed at home. One day, her father and Ryota got into another argument. It turned out that Ryota had been caught by the school for being drunk, which could affect his future baseball career. Her father felt embarrassed, but Ryota said he had already quit the baseball team. Hearing this, her father became even angrier. Their mother could no longer bear to watch and picked up a baseball bat to smash the bus window that was supposed to take Ryota. Although she was called to school countless times because of Sayaka's issue, she never felt embarrassed. Her mother cried as she complained. Her father only wanted to force Ryota to carry his dreams, completely unaware of how scared Ryota was of playing baseball. Every time before a game, he would have an asthma attack, fearing he would disappoint his father's expectations. Afterward, Sayaka found Ryota and tried to encourage him to pursue his dreams, but was met with a wave of sarcasm. "What right do you have to say that to me? Didn't you also give up on going to tutoring classes?" This statement hit Sayaka like a wake-up call. The next day, she and her mother took a bus to Keio University, where the cultural atmosphere was rich and the students were full of confidence. Her mother hoped she could also be this confident in the future. Finally, at the entrance of Keio University, Sayaka reaffirmed her dreams. She returned to her tutoring class and worked hard, soon facing the 4th national mock exam. However, she lacked the courage to open the report card. After Yoshitaka helped her open it, she saw significant improvement. She rushed home to share the good news, only to find her father burning Ryota's baseball equipment in the yard, stating he would never pressure him again. Sayaka took out her report card, which had improved from an E to a C, increasing her chances of getting into Keio University by 50%. Sayaka told her brother she would go to Keio University and encouraged Ryota to find his own dream. With 2 months left until the exam, Yoshitaka began helping Sayaka choose schools and majors. The first choice was the Faculty of Letters at Keio University, followed by the slightly less prestigious Faculty of Letters at Kinki University, and third was the Faculty of Comprehensive Policy at Keio University, where the essay accounted for a large portion of the score. 2 months passed quickly, and Kinki University started its entrance exams first. However, on that day, due to heavy snow, all trains were suspended. Just when they were at a loss, her father drove the bus originally prepared for Ryota to take Sayaka to the exam venue. He apologized for neglecting her all these years and assured her that he would prepare the tuition fees no matter what. Sayaka scoffed and did not appreciate it. At that moment, the car suddenly stopped. She thought her father was angry, but saw him get out with a shovel to help clear snow from the tires of stranded vehicles. She suddenly remembered what her mother had said that day and realized her father did have some good qualities. Soon, they arrived at the exam site amidst the heavy snow. Just as Sayaka was focused on moving forward, her father suddenly shouted, "Sayaka, go for it." The girl smiled and walked into the exam room. The exam went smoothly, and she achieved the expected results. But the main event was the upcoming exam for the Faculty of Letters at Keio University. Sayaka studied at the tutoring class until the last day and handed a thank you letter to Yoshitaka when saying goodbye. Yoshitaka was very pleased. Sayaka's growth was remarkable. Yoshitaka also gave her a jar of qualified coffee, hoping Sayaka could pass with flying colors. After Sayaka left, Yoshitaka opened the envelope. The letter was filled with gratitude. If it weren't for Yoshitaka's trust and encouragement, she would never have experienced the joy of effort, nor would she have hope and dreams. So she also wanted to become someone like Yoshitaka. On the day of the exam, Sayaka drank that can of passing coffee, but it did not bring her good luck. Instead, it made her stomach hungry, frequently going back and forth between the restroom and the exam room, resulting in her not performing well in the subjects she was originally good at. Next was the exam for the Keio University School of Comprehensive Policy. The essay, which Sayaka was not good at, had a high score ratio, but she thought of Yoshitaka's teachings to think about problems from different angles, to propose claims based on considering opposing viewpoints, so she calmed down to complete the exam. Soon the day arrived when Keio University's Faculty of Letters released the results. Yoshitaka and Reiji were even more nervous than Sayaka, but unfortunately, she still did not pass. Sayaka was completely disheartened. Perhaps she was just too stupid. Yoshitaka comforted her that there was still the Comprehensive Policy Department, but both of them knew in their hearts that this major had a high score for the essay. It was almost impossible, but life is full of surprises and unexpected events. On the day the Comprehensive Policy Department released the results, Sayaka looked at the passing mark on the screen, almost crying tears of joy. She couldn't say a word. When she rushed to the tutoring class, she found someone more anxious than her. She finally couldn't help but cry out loud. Although she did not pass the exam for Keio University's Faculty of Letters, she was admitted to the Comprehensive Policy Department. Everyone around her was happy for her at that moment. She truly felt that the future was promising. The time for Keio University to start. Classes arrived. Before leaving, Sayaka finally reconciled with her father. She jumped onto her father's back, just like when she was a child, and on the train to her new journey, she opened the letter from teacher Yoshitaka. You once said I changed your life, but I feel it is your struggle that has changed many people's lives. I believe that no matter what you encounter in the future, you will move forward without hesitation. And knowing you has made my world broader. Flying Colors is a Japanese movie released in 2015, adapted from a true story. The original work was written by the real-life Yoshitaka teacher. The entire movie is actually very simple. It's just a story of an underachiever's comeback. But there were several moments in between where I couldn't help but want to cry. People often say, effort may not necessarily yield results, but without effort, there will definitely be no results. This statement is so true. I hope everyone bravely pursues what they want and doesn't care about what others say. The end.